Fox News.
Good morning. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. Hope you had a wonderful weekend, and they fly by fast, don't they? So, hopefully you're up and at 'em and raring to go.
I love the Greg Belfrage Show.
Always feel good on Monday morning, and then it starts declining as the week goes on.
Daily dose of common sense, no prescription required.
Americans love a winner and will not tolerate a loser. Americans.
All right, here we go.
I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
Good morning, my friends. The marketplace of ideas is open. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. Monday, May 12th. Is that correct? Yes, May 12th. Great to have you along this morning. So we had U.S. and Chinese officials saying they've reached a preliminary agreement when it comes to trade. Negotiations have been ongoing in Switzerland, so we don't know the details yet. But U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent described the talks as productive, and he said more information will be released today. And he said that substantial progress has been made, he said. He thanked the Swiss government because they're providing the venue. And he said, I think that led to a great deal of productivity we've seen. We will be giving details tomorrow. So this was yesterday. But I can tell you that the talks were productive. We had the vice premier, two vice ministers who were integrally involved. Ambassador Jameson Greer and myself. And I spoke to President Trump, as did Ambassador Jameson last night. He is fully informed of what's going on. So there will be a complete briefing tomorrow. So we should get more details on that coming up today. The markets are already reacting very, very positively to this, as you've been hearing from Fox News. And we'll keep following that for you throughout the morning. So the president on True Social yesterday, this was early yesterday afternoon, he said, my next truth will be one of the most important and impactful I have ever issued. Enjoy. And so his next then truth, and this is on True Social, the president said, I'm just going to share the whole thing with you. It's a bit lengthy, but he said, but it's impactful. He said, for many years, the world has wondered why prescription drugs and pharmaceuticals in the United States were so much higher in price than they were in any other nation. Sometimes being, and a lot of this is in capital letters, sometimes being 5 to 10 times more expensive than the same drug manufactured in the exact same laboratory or plant by the same company. He said it was always difficult to explain and very embarrassing because, in fact, there was no correct or rightful answer. The pharmaceutical drug companies would say for years that it was research and development costs, which the president's absolutely right about that. And why is it that America should bear all of that, then those increase? Why is it that that Americans should bear all of those pharmaceutical costs, the research costs? But he says these costs would be for no reason whatsoever borne by the suckers of America alone. Campaign contributions can do wonders, but not with me and not with the Republican Party. We are going to do the right thing, something that the Democrats have fought for many years. Therefore, I'm pleased to announce that tomorrow morning in the White House at 9 a.m., I will be signing one of the most consequential executive orders in our country's history. Prescription drug and pharmaceutical prices will be reduced almost immediately by 30 to 80%. They will rise throughout the world in order to equalize and, for the first time in many years, bring fairness to America. I will be instituting a most favored nations policy whereby the United States will pay the same price as the nation that pays the lowest price anywhere in the world. Our country will finally be treated fairly, and our citizens' health care costs will be reduced by numbers never even thought of before. Additionally, on top of everything else, the United States will save trillions of dollars, the president said on True Social. So that is a very big story this morning. The president will sign, I should say, an executive order later today. He'll be doing that this morning that will do exactly that. I'm trying to pop through. My stuff is a bit of a jumble here. Forgive me. One of the other big stories this morning, and the left-wing media is going to run with this, the president receiving this $400 million Air Force One from Qatar. It's a according to the New York Post, they call it 400 million flying palace from Qatar to use as Air Force One. Now, reportedly, the president would be able to keep that even after leaving office. And this is what's got people pretty upset about the whole thing. So the president, according to reports, will receive this flying palace. It's a Boeing 747-8 jumbo jet from Qatar's royal family. The president will use it as Air Force One. And he reacted to this. The current Air Force One, he says, is 40 years old. And he said in a True Social post yesterday, went after the Democrats who were criticizing the agreement. And he said, so the fact that the Defense Department is getting a gift free of charge of a 747 aircraft to replace the 40-year-old Air Force One temporarily in a very public and transparent transaction so bothers the crooked Democrats that they insist we pay top dollar for the plane, he said. Anybody can do that. The Dems are world-class losers, the president said on True Social in reacting to this. So we'll get your thoughts. Do you think, gifting the $400 million Air Force One is offering a political bribe? And I couldn't help but wonder if Joe Biden had received the same offer. Would the media, the Democrats, be as outraged as they are that Donald Trump received it? So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that coming up this morning. That is a big story. Now, this was a big story over the weekend, and you had some House Democrats from New Jersey at the ICE detention center there over the weekend. Did you see this? They were caught on camera, and there were a few lawmakers who were involved. I think 3 of them, along with the mayor of Newark, who were arrested and charged with trespassing. And authorities said an ICE agent was assaulted in the confrontation, which was all caught on camera. So Tricia McLaughlin at the Department of Homeland Security said, if it was a typical U.S. citizen and they tried to storm into a detention facility that's housing dangerous criminals or any person at all, they would be arrested. Just because you are a member of Congress or just because you're a public official does not mean that you are above the law. I think, which is absolutely correct. That's a big story this morning. That happened over the weekend. Also, the president on True Social said, I'm happy to announce that Eden Alexander, an American citizen who has been held hostage since October 2023, is coming home to his family. I'm grateful to all those, and he's the last American citizen, I think, who's been held hostage. And he said, I'm grateful to all those involved in making this monumental news happen. This was a step taken in good faith toward the United States and the efforts of the mediators, Qatar and Egypt, to put an end to this very brutal war and return all living hostages and remains to their loved ones. Hopefully, this is the first of those final steps necessary to end this brutal conflict. I look very much forward to that day of celebration. The president announced that. That's also a really big story this morning. I don't have all of these things in the, forgive me, my stories in the best of the best order this morning. Also, you have the new Pope giving his first homily then over the weekend. And that story actually is trending. So I have more details on the Pope's homily and what he's talking about. I'll have those details for you coming up. There was a story that is picking up some steam at the New York Post. The Pope's brother sharing, and I will not share it with you, but he apparently shared he has put up a series of pro-Trump posts online, and one that was, suffice it to say, very inappropriate, and I thought very critical of Nancy Pelosi and very lewd. It was very lewd. And he apparently pretty lewd in a number of different posts. And that's the beautiful thing about families, isn't it? You've got one who's the Pope, and here's the Pope's brother, and he's out there. And so he went on some social media screeds. So he's off and he's tearing, and it's like, unfortunately, pretty common in the country today where you see folks who are doing that from all walks of life and from it just doesn't matter. But the New York Post says they called it a gross post. And I will not, and I can't honestly reference, even if I could, I wouldn't use the language that he used. It's just, I don't do that. So trying to look at any more of this, Eden Alexander, the pharmaceutical prices, that's a big deal. In fact, I asked a question about this on Facebook this morning. For those of you who follow the Greg Belfrage Show on Facebook, first of all, thank you. Appreciate having you there very, very much. What are your thoughts on the president saying that he is going to lower prescription drug prices 30 to, what did he say? 30, was it 30 to 50%, he thinks, or greater, lower? He's saying that the cost of all of this research and development really was falling squarely on the shoulders of Americans. Now here it is, 30 to 80%. He says that prescription drug and pharmaceutical prices will be reduced by 30 to 80%. And instead, he's saying they will rise throughout the world in order to equalize, and for the first time in many years, bring fairness to America. Yeah, And you wonder about this, that if in fact companies have gotten away with that because, we've allowed them to. We've allowed them to. Instead of saying, no, America is not going to, bear the entire cost of these pharmaceuticals and so on. So I really welcome your thoughts this morning. For those of you who follow me on Facebook, and if you don't follow me on Facebook, please consider it. I would very, very much appreciate it. All right, as we look at the economy, and I think we're going to see some explosive things happen today with this agreement, apparently now with China moving in the right direction. And you may have seen this last week. The Lego Group is investing $366 million. They're building a new 2 million square foot warehouse. And this was announced by Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin last week. Will employ over 300 people. And you're seeing more of this investment in America and factories opening up. And Youngkin said the Lego Group is not just a household name, it's a symbol of creativity, innovation, and quality that resonates globally. Yeah, he's absolutely right. He said 3 years after choosing Virginia to establish their U.S. manufacturing plant, the Lego Group's decision to expand, now he said, is an exciting new chapter in this partnership, bringing in 305 new high-quality jobs to the region. So you're seeing more and more of those types of things happening. Also, Joe Rogan made some very interesting comments, and I must say they were very, very interesting to me, and I think they will be to a number of others, especially if you're a fan of the Joe Rogan Experience. He talked about his growing interest in Christianity. And he said he finds the idea of Jesus Christ more compelling, even more logical, he said, than scientific explanations for the beginning of the universe, things like the Big Bang. And he said that he was having a conversation with a writer and TikToker, and Rogan said, I'm sticking with Jesus. Jesus makes more sense. People have come back to life. He said it's funny because people will be incredulous about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, but yet they're convinced that the entire universe was smaller than the head of a pin, and that for no reason that anyone has adequately explained to me, instantaneously became everything. Okay, he says. So he finds the idea of Jesus Christ easier to believe than the Big Bang Theory. And I thought, this, honestly, it's kind of intriguing. And you have seen Joe Rogan more and more. He's talking about his growing interest in Christianity. And I think when you have somebody with the kind of following that Joe Rogan has, which is this top podcaster in the country, when Joe Rogan is talking about those things, people are paying attention and people are listening, even if they don't, I think, believe themselves. And it opens, I think, the door to a lot of questions for us. And do you wish that public figures would be more open about their own spiritual beliefs and so on? We've got to talk about this. And I thought it's kind of interesting. Is it possible for someone to be a man of science and a person of faith? Personally, I believe it is. But we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail coming up later in the program. Great to have you along this morning. Clear skies, 61. This weather has just been absolutely phenomenal, hasn't it? Really, really been nice. So 61 currently. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
Weeknights 5 to 8. Hello, News Talk 1320, 107.9.
Okay, baby. My mess of stuff here. Oh, I was all, I was so close to getting ready, and then I look up at Fox News Channel, and I see something, man, that easy.
This is the spirit of the NWGS.
Okay.
The Midwest Gold and Silver Coin Sports Cards and Stamp Show is coming to the Sioux Falls Convention Center this Saturday and Sunday. Free admission. Saturday 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. The largest coin and sports card show in the state. Bring the kids and start a hobby to pass on to future generations. Buy, sell, trade, or appraisals, coins, currency, sports cards, and stamps. The Sioux Falls Convention Center this Saturday and Sunday. Go to MidwestGoldSilver.com to learn more.
When it comes to preparing for a crisis, it doesn't matter if you're a year early, a month early, or a day early, but you can't be a day late. That's why millions of Americans trust My Patriot Supply, the nation's largest preparedness company. Right now, you can get their 4-week emergency food supply, plus an incredible bonus, 4 free 72-hour food kits. That's an extra 12 days worth of food, absolutely free. This kit provides hearty, delicious meals for 4 weeks with 2,000 plus calories per day, 12 essential vitamins and minerals, and a shelf life of up to 25 years. And for a limited time,
There we go.
12 additional days of food absolutely free, which means right now is the best time to get prepared. Go to MyPatriotSupply.com today to claim your 4-week food kit, plus an extra 12 days of free food. Offer ends soon. Shop MyPatriotSupply.com today. MyPatriotSupply.com.
The Midwest Gold and Silver Coin Sports Cards and Stamp Show is coming to the Sioux Falls Convention Center this Saturday and Sunday. Free admission. Saturday 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Yeah, this is wild. Carolyn Levitt's on Fox News Channel right now talking about this prescription drug plan expected to slash drug prices 30 to 80%, depending.
Saturday and Sunday. Go to MidwestGoldSilver.com to learn more.
I think it's going to depend on the drug and
Hot and windy start to the work week. Our high today 91, south wind at 20 to 35. Forecast low tonight 59, mainly clear. Tomorrow's high back to 91, more south winds 20 to 35. More wind from the south Wednesday, high 91. Showers and thunderstorms developing Wednesday night into Thursday. From the Storm Center at Kettleland.
And currently in Sioux Falls, 629. Clear skies, 61. Great to have you along. Coming up, we'll check in with Fox News Radio, the president promising lower prescription drug prices under a new plan. And we asked on Facebook, do you believe it will make a real difference in your life? God love folks on Facebook, but some of you just are absolutely unable to answer a question. You just I look at the responses and it's just like, do you even hear my words? Do you even hear me speaking? I asked you a direct question and they're just off on it. Oh, it's crazy. That's the way it is. That's such a social media. All right. Fox News Radio coming up next. More on that just ahead. Then we will check in with Joe Bowman in the Kello.com News Center. Coming up, it'll be Belf's News Gallery. We run down all the stories that are trending. So a pretty broad look at the news on the way here on Kello.
tariffs. Fox Business correspondent Cheryl Casoni.
The U.S. reduces from 125% reciprocal tariff on all Chinese goods down to 10%. China likewise reduces their retaliatory levy on goods to 10% from 125%. But that separate 20% tariff related to fentanyl, that stays in place until I'm assuming the Trump administration feels there's meaningful change.
The deal was announced after weekend trade talks in Switzerland. House Republicans released a plan to add more eligibility checks and work requirements for Medicare, also taking away federal reimbursement for state medical taxes.
It has a huge economic factor that they aren't talking about.
New Mexico Democrat Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham on CBS Face the Nation. America's listening to Fox News.
Weather brought to you by Infinity Sedation Dentistry, Sioux Falls. They fix your teeth while you sleep.
Hello, News Time 6:31. I'm Joe Bowman in the Kello.com News Center. A deadly crash in Sioux Falls on Friday left 2 people dead and 1 seriously injured. Emergency crews arrived at the scene near East 57th and South Veterans Parkway, where a GMC Sierra collided with a Ford Taurus. The 78-year-old female passenger of the Ford was killed at the scene. The 77-year-old male driver later died from his injuries at the hospital. The driver of the GMC, a 35-year-old, was also hospitalized with serious injuries. The Sioux Falls Police Traffic Division is investigating, but it's unclear if speed or impairment were factors. The investigation is ongoing. Sioux Falls police are investigating after shots were fired in a downtown parking lot Sunday morning. It happened in a parking lot near East 11th and 1st just before 1 a.m. near Bin 201. Authorities say a group was reportedly playing dice when the gunfire started. No one was hurt, but several parked cars were hit. No arrests have been made. More details are expected to be released later this morning. Dakota State University held its 2025 graduation ceremony on Saturday with former South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem delivering the commencement speech. According to KELOLAND TV, demonstrators lined the streets outside the campus protesting Noem's actions as Secretary of Homeland Security since assuming office earlier this year. Despite the protests, the ceremony went on smoothly. Noem received an honorary doctorate in public service. And South Dakota libraries will receive their full federal grant from the Institute of Museum and Library Services for 2025, reversing earlier projections that the state would get only half of its usual funding. The South Dakota Library Association made the announcement Friday on its website and social media. The restored funding means essential library services can continue as planned after earlier concerns tied to potential federal spending cuts. From the Kello.com News Center, I'm Joe Bowman.
The news never stops. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
Weather brought to you by Intech Cleaning and Restoration. If you need it clean, call the Intech team. IntechClean.com.
More hot weather today. High temperature 91 with a south wind at 20 to 35 in the Sioux Falls area. Tonight's low temperature 59, mainly clear. Tomorrow high temperature 91 again, south wind 20 to 35. And temperatures in the low 90s Wednesday. Good chance of showers and thunderstorms Wednesday night into Thursday. From the Storm Center at KELOLAND TV, I'm meteorologist Brian Karstens.
If news is happening, you're hearing it now. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9 and Kello.com.
In 1994, automakers first began equipping all cars and trucks with the so-called black box. We were told that it would collect only accident and engine performance data. Today, it's a whole different story. I'm Kim Commando for Oracle. Cut your current cloud bill in half and move to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Find out right now if your company qualifies at oracle.com/Kim. It was only a matter of time before car manufacturers realized the information stored by your car's black box is valuable. Instead of recording only accident and performance data, today's cars are equipped with EDRs, event data recorders, and EDRs keep track of everything. It knows when you're speeding, hard braking, and rapidly accelerating. It automatically and wirelessly reports everything to data brokers like LexisNexis. This data is turned into your driving risk score that is sold to your insurance company, who might use it to raise your rate. Is this an invasion of your privacy? Of course, but it's not illegal. Sign up for my free newsletter at getkim.com. There's a growing expense eating into your company's profits. It's your cloud computing bill. You may have gotten a deal to start, but now the spend is sky high and increasing every year. What if you could cut your cloud bill in half and improve performance at the same time? Well, if you act by May 31st, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure can help you do just that. OCI is the next generation cloud designed for every workload, where you can run any application, including any AI projects, faster and more securely for less. In fact, Oracle has a special promotion where you can cut your cloud bill in half when you switch to OCI. The savings are real. On average, OCI costs 50% less for computing, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Join today's innovative AI tech companies who upgraded to OCI and saved. Offer only for new U.S. customers with a minimum financial commitment. See if you qualify for half off at oracle.com/Kim. That's oracle.com/Kim.
The Kim Commando Show, live Saturday mornings at 9. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is brought to you by Tires, making your vehicle ride like new. 2 Sioux Falls Tire and Automotive Centers. Visit tires3.com.
Remembering a younger day, no deadlines and no bills to pay. We laugh and sing and run and play, casting every care away. But now we're stressed with jobs and such, kids and sports, it's all too much. But at the end of a long hard day, we'll dream our cares away. Sleeping on our comfort cave tonight.
In today's fast-paced world, building strong business relationships is key. It's about forging connections built on trust, innovation, and a passion for excellence. At Lawrence & Schiller, we're about pushing boundaries, problem-solving, outthinking and outdoing the competition, and driving positive business outcomes. If you're tired of settling for subpar results, get to know us at l-s.com, where every problem has a solution and every result is extraordinary.
Are you living with dry AMD? If so, you could be on the road to geographic atrophy, or GA, a condition that leads to retinal cell death and permanent vision loss. But with Izervay, you can
slow it down, get it going slower.
Izervay slows GA progression by targeting a key source of retinal cell death, which may help preserve your vision longer. Izervay, or Avastin capsid pegol, is a prescription eye injection.
Hey, Robert, are you paying a lot for meds?
Infection or active swelling in
Yeah, I hope it works too.
Izervay can cause eye infection.
Not because I'm paying a lot for meds. Actually, mine are very reasonable, but I'm on a few of them. I think 3 different meds for my high blood pressure, 2 since my stroke.
Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
I'm home, and I love it. I'm home where I belong. I'm home, and I love it. I'm home where I belong.
It's always nice to come home. But these days, many Americans are at risk of foreclosure and losing their homes. Fortunately, help is available.
Let's see.
Making Home Affordable is a free program from the U.S. government that has already helped over 1 million struggling homeowners, and we want to help you.
I'm home, and I love it. I'm home.
Find out now what your options are.
Gosh, it's beautiful today.
Or call 1.
At least this morning it is.
The sooner you act, the better chance we can help you.
It's out over the weekend, and I'm just like, wow, unbelievable. Little windy at times, you know, but really nice.
A big story can stop you in your tracks. The things you need to know about are all on the most listened to news source in Sioux Falls. Kello News Talk 1320.
640. And just a beautiful morning. Sunshine. 61 currently at Kello. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
What's trending now?
Add them on Facebook.
Let the tweeting begin. The hashtag does that. News and views from Belf's News Gallery.
Well, the president said on True Social that he will be announcing this morning an executive order to lower the cost of prescription drug prices. And he said that these prices will be reduced almost immediately by 30 to 80%. They will rise throughout the world in order to equalize, and for the first time in many years, bring fairness to America, the president said. So he will be signing that executive order today, and we'll see, what comes of that and what the reaction will be. You've got to believe that that's going to be an extremely positive reaction to that, if in fact that's what winds up happening. Also, the president expected to receive a Boeing 747-8 jumbo jet as a gift during his visit to Qatar this week. It's been dubbed by some as a flying palace. That's what it's called, flying palace. And aviation experts estimate the value of the plane to be around $400 million. And there's a lot of reporting on this morning. That story is trending. Number of places that have stories. New York Post, probably one of the most detailed reports, at least that I saw. I skimmed a few. And New York Post had among the most detailed. So this is generating controversy in part because the plane then would be gifted and used by the president as Air Force One. And then after he leaves office, would potentially be transferred to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation as he leaves office, according to reports. And the president seemed to be confirming this in a post yesterday on Truth Social. He said, so the fact that the Defense Department is getting a gift free of charge of a 747 aircraft to replace the 40-year-old Air Force One temporarily in a very public and transparent transaction so bothers the crooked Democrats that they insist we pay top dollar for the plane. He said anybody could do that. And then he said the Dems are world-class losers. That was the response from the president. So rubbing a little salt in the wound. Democrats are already upset. And he is very good. You got to give Trump high marks for infuriating Democrats, no doubt. President also said yesterday he's starting to doubt whether Ukraine will reach a ceasefire deal with Russia, not blaming Ukraine, blaming Russia. And he said, I'm starting to doubt that Ukraine will make a deal with Putin. President Putin of Russia doesn't want to have a ceasefire agreement with Ukraine, but rather wants to meet on Thursday in Turkey to negotiate a possible end to the bloodbath. And Russia was involved in more attacks then over the weekend, more attacks against Ukraine. The president said this upcoming meeting would mean the two parties, as well as European leaders and the U.S., would be able to determine whether or not a deal is possible. And it's looking less and less likely. Russia has just become more and more belligerent. And that's unfortunately where it stands this morning. Also, Eden Alexander, the last living American hostage in Gaza, being released as part of efforts to establish a ceasefire there. And the announcement then came yesterday from the president on Truth Social. Other stories trending this morning. Have you seen that bronze sculpture in the Oval Office it's a sculpture of the moments after the assassination attempt on the president in Butler, Pennsylvania. The one where he's raising his fist in the air and Secret Service agents are, one behind him, one, hugging him, they were trying to cover the president. And it's a pretty compelling sculpture. So reporters and photographers noticed it on the Resolute desk as the president was signing executive orders on Friday. And one of the agents then reaching for Trump in the sculpture is the current director of the Secret Service, Sean Curran, who Trump had appointed. But watch for that as you see, the president at the Resolute desk and signing executive orders. Watch for that sculpture. There's some photos. That story is trending, so you should be able to see it, but it's incredibly well done, I thought. Also, we have the Pope giving his first Sunday address yesterday, and he touched on a number of things. He used the opportunity to call for lasting peace in war zones throughout the world. And he welcomed the efforts to end the war in Ukraine and between Ukraine and Russia. He also talked about what's going on in Gaza. He said the immense tragedy of the Second World War ended 80 years ago. Now we're facing the tragedy of a Third World War in pieces. I would like to address the powerful people of the world, repeating the always current call, no more war, he said. I carry in my heart the suffering of the beloved Ukrainian people. May whatever is possible be done to reach an authentic, true, and lasting peace as quickly as possible. May all the prisoners be freed. May children return to their families, he said. He said he was happy to hear of the tentative ceasefire between India and Pakistan. And he said the continuing situation in Gaza was deeply hurting him, he said. May a ceasefire immediately come into effect. May humanitarian aid be allowed into the civilian population, and may all hostages be freed. So this was part of the Pope's homily yesterday. Also, there is another story about the Pope that is trending, is the fact that it got a lot of attention, I think, the end of last week into the weekend. He's a native of Chicago, and he's a fan of the Chicago White Sox. So it turns out he's not a casual fan, says Fox News. There was a footage of Prevost attending Game 1 of the 2005 World Series that surfaced on social media Friday. And it was by pure chance that Prevost was shown on the Fox broadcast for that game. Cameras caught him during the top of the ninth inning as the White Sox were clinching a 5-3 win over the Houston Astros. And those who know him, his brother, saying he was always a White Sox fan, he says. Also, the stories about Jordan Hudson and Bill Belichick just continue to roll in. As I wind up ignoring a lot of them because, I have a life. But excuse me. But the reaction on social media has just been crazy. So Jordan Hudson was in the 2025 Miss Maine USA pageant, and she came in third place. And there are reports that, New York Post had a report. She's not taking it badly. Who wouldn't? I mean, I look at that. I'm like, who wouldn't? You came in third place. Who wouldn't take that badly? I'm like, duh. Okay, so let's move on for those of us with more meaningful lives. This is, forgive me, South Carolina, I believe. They're investigating I'm pretty sure this is South Carolina. A 52-year-old man was found dead in a kangaroo and wallaby enclosure on Friday. And this happened then on Friday night. And just before midnight, Eric Slate was found dead with multiple blunt injuries inside the enclosure with wallabies and kangaroos, there. And you have authorities saying, yeah, there are a lot of animals here. All of the animals are there. They're contained. There's no risk to the community, but it looks like they killed him. They killed him. No details as to what happened, but they pummeled him to death. Wow. Admittedly, in a unique way to go, but also, ooh, sad. All right, there is a story trending about North Carolina Representative Tim Moore. And he has been, on social media, he has been sharing then hidden staircases and passageways left in the U.S. Capitol since the building's original construction in the 18th century. He did a video which has gone viral. And you can see the video, and he said, construction started in the 1700s. There are all sorts of little hidden passageways. He said, I just pulled this cover up. You can see, he says. So he posted this to his official congressional account on X on Friday. And the construction of the Capitol, commissioned in 1793, President George Washington laid the cornerstone that same year. There have been various expansions and so on. So Moore takes viewers inside the Capitol's Lincoln Room, as well as other places, and showing the hidden passageways, and it went viral. Marvel's Thunderbolts and Ryan Coogler's Sinners dominated the North American box office again this weekend. Thunderbolts is doing incredibly well, took first place, $33.1 million from theaters in the U.S. and Canada, according to studio estimates. It's down 55% from its opening. It's still pretty strong. Added $34 million over this past weekend. The Rockies manager, Bud Black, was fired yesterday, and an interim coach has been chosen. So Black's final game was a 9-3 victory over the Padres at Coors Field, which ended an 8-game losing streak, but the Rockies were 7-33, and so Bud Black is out as manager. This is pretty wild, but I wonder how we're just now discovering this. Reports are saying that our solar system may have a 9th planet after all. Remember, Pluto was the 9th planet, and then it's like, no, Pluto's not a planet. So we're down to 8 planets. It is a satellite, but it's not a planet. Now we're being told we may, in fact, have a 9th planet. and the possibility that an additional planet may be hidden far into the solar system was touted more than a century ago, but astronomers may have found new evidence that points to a possible planet 9, according to a new paper. And it's likely the size of Neptune, is so far away that it could take between 10 and 20,000 years to orbit the sun. That's fascinating. With all of the discovery that we have done, and this is where my mind goes, with all of the discovery we have done, how is it we're just finding that out? I mean, so I've got to do some more research because that's interesting to me. Also, the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints announced his retirement from the NFL over the weekend. He had been dealing with shoulder pain while gearing up for the season. And he said, upon reflection and prayer and in discussion with my wife, Heather, I've decided to retire from the NFL. For more than 11 years, we've been incredibly blessed, and we are forever grateful and humbled by the experience, he said. And that's a look at the stories trending this morning in Belf's News Gallery. 6:57, sunshine 61. And this hour of our show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
Want to feel plugged into the community? Keep it on Callow. News Talk 1320.
Well, thank you, my friend, for being here, starting your week with us. Always appreciated. I hope you'll return for the 4th hour here on YouTube. That's coming up at 9:30 this morning. So until I'll see you on the radio here again in just a few moments. Otherwise, so long until then.
Ranger is known for its stable life, even in rough waters. Fishing brings you the beauty of the outdoors and